let us begin. We'll call to order the special meeting dated Monday, September 14th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Catherine, would you call the roll, please?
Trustee Lineham. Trustee Selleck.
Here.
Trustee Wood.
He's logging.
I'm sorry?
I think she's saying that Jeff is logging in.
Oh.
You froze up, Jennifer.
Oh, she did.
Yep. Well, we can continue and you can count him when he shows up.
Trustee Mahoney.
Here.
Trustee Andreessen.
And Mahoney, yes, here.
Trustee Coonsey.
Here.
President Miller.
Here. Very good. Thank you. We are going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance. We can go to public comment on agenda items only. If anybody from the public would like to comment on anything on our agenda this evening, now is your time. Okay. Seeing as we have none, we will move on to first item, which is a public hearing. We have a proposed amendment to the boundaries of the Dundee Crossing Business Development District and the approval of an amendment to the business district plan related thereto. So I will now hereby call to order the public hearing. And I believe we will start with an opening statement by our village attorney.
Thank you, President Miller. The public hearing tonight is in regard to the village's proposal to amend the boundaries of the Dundee Crossing Business Development District and to improve a related amendment to the business district plan. In accordance with the business district development and redevelopment law, the village has taken the following actions regarding the proposed amendment. On July 6, 2020, the village approved by ordinance the date and procedure for this public hearing. On July 6, 2020, on the same day, the village made the proposed amendments to the business district plan available for review by the public. On August 26th and August 26th and September 2nd, 2020, the village published notice of the public hearing in the Daily Herald newspaper. The proposed amendment to the boundaries of the business district consists of the addition of 1030 and 1040 East Main Street in the village of East Dundee and adjacent right-of-way not currently within the business district. This consists of approximately 42 acres of property on the south side of Illinois Route 72. The amendment to the business district plan under consideration this evening provides for an amendment to the boundaries of the business district to add the properties previously mentioned and a finding that all other provisions of the business district plan not amended remain in full force and effect, including a finding that the business district is a blighted area. The 3/4% business district retailers occupation tax and the 3/4% business district service occupation tax, as previously approved by the village board within the business district, remains in full force and effect. Any interested persons may file a written objection with the village clerk at this time and may be heard orally with respect to any matters embodied within the notice of this public hearing. Any alternative proposals or bids for any proposed conveyance, lease, mortgage, or other disposition by the village of land or rights in land owned by the village in the business district, and any objections shall be heard and determined this evening. Village Administrator Johnson will now provide some background relative to the amendment to the proposed boundaries of the business district and the related proposed amendment to the business district plan.
Thank you, Caitlin. For the purposes of the record, I will run through the memorandum quickly to describe the property, the amendment to the BDT that we're looking at. This would be an amendment to what's typically known as the Dundee Crossings BDD to include an additional acreage, 23 acres of which will be used for Caterpillar. The board had previously approved a development agreement for the Caterpillar project that you're familiar with, and one of the requirements to move forward with that development agreement is to amend the boundaries of the BDD to include this additional acreage. So it is the 23 acres. There is an additional 12 acres that is undeveloped, and there are no plans in place for that acreage yet, and then an additional 3 acres which would be used for right-of-way. There is a depiction within your memorandum. On page 3, you will see a map of all of the BDDs in the village. You'll see the 2 additional properties have the hatch marks, and they are just east of the former Walmart property. So I believe the board is familiar with this amendment to the BDD. If anyone has any other questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
Hey, Jennifer, it's Kirsten. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to let you know that I'm on.
Great, thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions for the administrator? All right, at this point, we are in public comment. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will ask for a motion for closure and final adjournment of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
Trustee Stella,
Yes.
Trustee Wood,
Yes.
Trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes. Okay, following this, we will need a motion to approve an ordinance approving an amendment to the boundaries of the Village of East Dundee Downtown and Dundee Crossings Business Development District and approving an amended business district plan in relation thereto, reconfirming the blighted area finding therein, imposing a retailer's occupation tax and service occupation tax therein, and amending previously approved ordinances related thereto.
Do I need to read the whole thing, or just I can just say so moved?
You can say so moved.
So moved.
Second.
I did the work for you though, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question concerning it. I mean, when we're talking about imposing a retailer's occupation tax, or I would like a clear understanding of exactly how that's going to affect the other merchants in that district. If we're talking about amending the downtown TIF to impose an additional retailer's tax to accommodate what's going on up at Altdorfer, I don't understand the connection between the two, because we are setting up a separate TIF to accommodate that. So why does it have to affect the downtown TIF or the Dundee Crossings TIF? It's a separate TIF. It's already been adjudicated. It's already been decided. It's already been determined. The boundaries are there. Everything's square. It's its own separate entity. What's the connection to the downtown TIF?
I can answer that. So this portion of the agenda, we're focusing on actually on the BDD portion. And it is called the Downtown and Dundee Crossings BDD. Originally, the BDD was established to mirror the boundaries of the Dundee Crossing TIF. And then a few years ago, the board, prior to me coming here, amended that BDD to include the downtown. So don't be confused when you hear downtown. It's actually Downtown and Dundee Crossings BDD. And it is the entire blue area shaded on page 3 of your memo. So that because this BDD is the closest BDD to the property that is recently annexed and is part of the Caterpillar project, that is the one we are looking to amend and to incorporate these properties, and it also meets the eligibility criteria under the statute to be amended to include these properties. But this is not the TIF portion discussion. This is the BDD portion.
Okay, and then it is safe then to assume that we're not imposing or requiring any other merchants within this BDD to implement an additional tax above what they're already charging to accommodate this change, whether it be boundary or otherwise, for Altdorfer.
The the properties that are already in the downtown and Dundee Crossings BDD already collect an additional 0.75% BDD tax and remit that to the village. They already do that currently. This would extend the tax to these two properties, which Caterpillar is fine with that concept because it is part of the development agreement whereby these taxes would be rebated back to Caterpillar.
Right, and is that a limited life, or is that just going to be from here until memoriam?
The BDD is also 23 years, just like the TIF. So this BDD is, I want to say about halfway, a little less than halfway through the life of the TIF. So there is an end life to the BDD.
But we can, as a village, continue that BDD, unlike a TIF, can't we? We can continue to extend that without state requirement or approval.
It is more difficult for the village to do that, but I do have experts on the phone. I have our attorney, and I also have Scott Harrington from Vanderwall and Associates, who would be better to answer that question than I can't really answer that question off the top of my head.
Yeah, before we get to the experts weighing in on the technical aspects of whether or not we can do that, I just want to point out that we're not raising taxes on everybody else to get CAT in. They're paying the same. CAT's now joining the club. And I don't think that there's any discussion that we've had as a board or any inclination on our part to extend the life of a TIF or a BDD.
No, I know that. I'm just, what I'm wondering is, you know, what we're talking about here, which, and either to my mistake or my oversight, do not recall that the discussion included giving that 7.75% exclusively back to Althofer. But what I'm saying is that with the BDD, the life on that, it can be extended if we wanted it to. You know, I'm just.
Why would we want to?
Well, I don't know. Why wouldn't we? I mean, if we're getting the benefit of a BDD to set one up to begin with, it might be in our interest to want to extend it beyond 23 years. When I know that the TIF is going to die out in 23 years, and then extending that would be practically impossible. What I'm saying, though, is that that isn't necessarily the case with the BDD. So
I guess in 23 years, a future board could look at extending a BDD. I don't think there's anything that we can do today to prohibit that, if that answers your question.
right.
I guess my question would be, how long are we currently set up to be rebating these taxes back to Caterpillar?
What would they say? There's 13 years left on the.
Is it on the entire length of the BDD, or is there a separate agreement with them to rebate?
There is, in the terms of the redevelopment agreement, the agreement, if I recall, I would have to pull that agreement, which I can do if you just give me a few minutes, but it does go through the life of the BDD and the life of the TIF. Those are the ways we always structure the redevelopment agreements. However, we have caps in place. So if they reach a cap, a reimbursement cap, they no longer are being rebated at BDD.
Is that cap pulling through? Is that cap pulling from the pool of both the BDD and the TIF? So once both those combine to that cap, that's the end of the rebates.
That's usually the way that we write them.
Okay.
Yes, in this one, we did write it that way, correct.
The reason that we do that, just to clarify for anybody that's not familiar, it's just there are going to be some districts that are very successful, that are some that not. We hope that they're all successful. However, we always hedge our bets because in some cases we're going to get more off of the TIF and some we're going to get more off of the BDD. And so therefore we just share the pool there when it comes to the incentive for people to put in a company with a $15 million building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more? Okay, let me see where we're at. So we have a motion and a second on the floor for the approval of the amendment. So I guess at this point, without further ado, Catherine, call the roll.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, President Miller. Attorney Culbertson, do we need to have Scott Harrington review the eligibility criteria for the BDD prior to passage?
No, we,
Okay.
I think Mr. Harrington will speak more on during the TIF public hearing, but just your review of the amendments was sufficient here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that.
Always better to clarify. Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
Trustee Sellis,
Yes.
Trustee Wood,
Yes.
Trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
and does President Miller need to vote on this, Caitlin?
If you would like to, he can, but it's
Yes.
not.
I will say yes. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. That takes us to item B of the public hearing, which is a proposed South Illinois Route 72 tax increment financing district. At this point, I will call public hearing to order for that. At this point, we will have an opening statement and overview of the proposed South Illinois Route 72 tax increment financing district and the related eligibility study and the redevelopment plan and project. Anybody?
Caitlin, do you want me to go? Do we need a motion to open the public hearing? Sorry.
The public hearing can just be called to order. We only need a motion to finally adjourn it.
Okay.
So,
Are you making
so
an
that's
open
fine.
statement on the TIF public hearing, or do you not need to make a public
I
statement?
do not need to make a formal opening statement as I did with the previous one. So I will leave it to you or Scott to go through the details.
Okay, I'll start, Scott, and then I will turn it over to you. So this is the public hearing for the creation of the new TIF district for the benefit of Caterpillar and the adjacent 12-acre property. Your memo does a thorough job of outlining the process that we have been through thus far. Most notably, we, as required by law, held a joint review board meeting with the taxing bodies, and we received a unanimous 6-0 vote to make a recommendation to the village board to create this TIF. It's kind of a micro TIF. It's a small TIF for the benefit of this project. Tonight, following the public hearing discussion, you'll be asked to approve an ordinance approving technical changes, and I want to briefly explain what that means, and we'll have Scott here weigh in on what those technical changes is. Basically, from the time of the drafting of the TIF plan, the redevelopment area plan that we need as part of the TIF, certain things have changed. One of those things is we've been watching unemployment rates. That's a criteria we're using to create the TIF. It's one of our eligibility criteria. So within the ordinance, we will update what those unemployment numbers are to date. Another change would be change to the PIN numbers as we work through annexing the property and work towards subdividing. New PINs have been assigned by the county to the parcels, so we need to make sure that those PIN numbers are documented correctly within the ordinance. So that's kind of the, I just wanted to give you an overview of what that ordinance is. The actual ordinances, there'll be 3 of them. Approving the TIF district will be at the September 28th village board meeting. That is designed that way. We have to have 14 days after our public hearing prior to creating the TIF by passing those 3 ordinances. So the subject of the public hearing tonight would be the creation of the TIF and the 3 ordinances that we're looking to approve on the 28th. The ordinance following the public hearing is actually just to approve technical changes to the plan. Once again, the new TIF covers the same area that we were discussing as the BDD. It does have a 23-year lifespan. It will commence with passage. So this will be an entirely new TIF with the full term. As I discussed before, the development agreement with Caterpillar does span the life of the new TIF. However, there is a cap on the reimbursement. So we are anticipating that the village will complete the reimbursement long before the expiration of the TIF district. So we'll be able to use those TIF funds to further other development projects, either in that TIF or in adjoining TIFs. Once again, there was no opposition from any taxing bodies, and that is where we would anticipate opposition to be derived from. At this time, I'll turn it over to Scott Harrington from Vanderwall and Associates if he has anything to add.
Yeah, good evening. The attorney asked me to just cover the criteria for qualifying the district. So I know that was pretty well covered in Jennifer's report, but I'll just review that for the record. I know that when the L24 project came forward, that the initial idea was to simply add on to the existing TIF the way that you just did with the BDD. But the blight criteria and the ability to include this property within those districts is different between a BDD and a TIF. So while we were able to simply expand the existing BDD and use the blight criteria that go with that to merely amend that district, we were not able to do that with the existing Dundee Crossing TIF. And primarily because the property has been used for commercial agriculture within the last 5 years. The only way really to qualify that property is through an industrial park conservation area. So once we're at that, there's kind of really 3 criteria that go with that. The first is that the village would need to be deemed a labor surplus municipality, which is based on unemployment rates. And where unemployment is not tracked by the community itself, we then defer to the county or the primary county in which the community is located, which is King County. And what has to happen is that the county's unemployment rate has to be higher than 6% and higher than the national rate for at least 1 month in the 6 months preceding the creation of the district. So we've actually had that condition now documented in April, May, June, and July. It's likely that we would probably see it in August as well, but that rate won't be released by the state until later this month. So we do meet that criteria. The other criteria is that the area, the industrial park conservation area, has to be zoned industrial. And so after you annex the property a couple months ago, you also rezoned the entire property to industrial, so we meet that criteria. And then the third criteria is that it has to adjoin a blighted area. And it abuts the Dundee Crossing TIF, both to its west and to its north. That is a blighted district in a blighted area. So we meet that criteria as well. Beyond that, in general, TIFs need to show that we need revitalization and guided growth within the area, and that the decline of the area in need of redevelopment impairs the value of private property, and that we're not likely to see redevelopment without public assistance. And given the fact that this property has remained in its current condition for basically ever, even though in your 2002 comprehensive plan designated it for development of exactly the type that you have, and even the 2010 update did as well, we've continued not to see development. And as you're aware, that Altofer's, a condition of them coming to this site was the ability to receive TIF assistance. So we've not seen growth and development without the assistance of TIF. So those are the criteria that allow us to designate it an industrial park conservation area. As Jennifer mentioned, it's a term of 23 years, just like your other districts. And so in all other respects, it functions like your other districts. It's just the qualifications for creating it are different, and that you have this limitation that it has to be zoned industrial. Jennifer also mentioned the technical changes ordinance. And so when we first put out a draft of the plan, I believe it was August 21st was the date on that plan, we've had to make some updates. And so the new draft of the plan is dated September 9th. And I'll just kind of quickly walk through what those are, but these are basically technical changes to accommodate new data that has come forth since then. So the first one is that the unemployment rate, as I mentioned before, is now a function of, now being 3 months, I think is what we have in the plan, instead of 1 month is what we had initially. So we're just making that change. Second change is that similar to that, if you can follow in the ordinance, we're again 3 in the prior 6 months, where previously we had 1. Third change was in the equalized assessed valuation. The property that got annexed was actually portions of 2 previously existing parcels. So after those got annexed, the county assigned new pins, and we now have 3 new pins, each now with their own individual values. And so that has been updated, and the base valuation for 2019 has been established at $8,314. The previous plan contained an estimate of what that would be. I think it was 9, so it was pretty close. But we now have 3 specific parcels to this exact boundary that you see in your packet, and the combined valuation is the $8,314, and that will effectively be the base value of the district. It's very low because the property has been used for agriculture. Fourth change is, again, to kind of reflect that. In another part of the document, we're changing from portions of 2 properties now to 3 parcels. Then in the eligibility report, same thing. We need to update that to 3 parcels instead of 2. In the eligibility report, we also have an update again on being 3 months of meeting our unemployment criteria, and we included a little table with that showed the King County rate compared to the state and the federal rate, and then a little check mark where it met the criteria of being both above 6% and above the federal rate. Last few changes again are kind of repetitive of that. So eligibility report, page 22, section D, changing from 1 month to 3 months. And then the appendices, starting with the legal description, updated that, where the legal description is the same because the meets and bounds aspect hasn't changed, but at the very bottom of that description, the pins were listed, and those have been updated to the 3 new ones that we currently have. In the Appendix 2, which listed the parcels and the AVs, again, those have been updated to list the 3 specific parcels and their individual values. And then Appendix 3 was a map, and so we have updated the map to include the new parcel numbers. So total of 10 changes altogether, but basically they either relate to the fact that we're now using 3 months of unemployment statistics versus 1, and these 3 new parcels versus the portions of 2 that we had previously.
Very good. Okay, I believe we are on public hearing B subsection 3. However, Administrator Johnson did cover the joint review board recommendation, which again was 6-0. So at this point, I will open the floor for public comment on this item. If anybody out there would like to discuss anything with us. Okay, seeing none, this is time for village board discussion. Any comments or questions on this? Okay, at this point, I will ask for a motion for closure and, where am I here? Sorry. Closure and final adjournment of public hearing B.
So moved.
Second.
Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
trustee Sella,
Yes.
trustee Wood,
Yes.
trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes. At this point, I would like a motion to approve an ordinance approving certain technical changes to the eligibility study and report in the proposed excuse me, in the proposed redevelopment project and plan document for the village of East Dundee, South Illinois Route 72 Tax Increment Financing District pursuant to 65 ILCS 5/11-74.4 and 5.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Questions? Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
trustee Sella,
Yes.
trustee Wood,
Yes.
trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes. Thank you all. Okay. Move on. We have no consent agenda on old business this evening.
You all have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Scott.
Good night, Scott.
Under new business, we have 5 items, 6 actually, items here. The first one, I'll have somebody read these. I got through with all the big words for you.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement regarding fire protection district impact fees.
Second.
Good. And discussion on this? The way I read this, this is basically that they're going to collect it instead of us collecting, holding it, and then giving it back to them.
That is correct.
I got a couple questions on it, of course.
Of course.
Besides the timing of the receipt of the fees on part of the district, why are we doing this? I mean, it indicated in the agenda that there was some, and this I didn't understand. The reasoning was mostly administrative, but that the village collecting the impact fees artificially inflates the perceived cost of the building permit fees collected and retained by the village. Someone's got to explain to me what artificially inflating perception or perceived costs mean.
Well, would that mean that our bill is taller, and if they get another bill from the fire department, it feels cheaper? Is that what we're saying?
I wrote that statement, and what it means is, so we have our building permit fees, which are based on construction costs. We have tap-on fees. We have impact fees, and we have impact fees that are retained by the village. Well, they're for administration, public works, and police. Sometimes we waive these fees. Often we waive these fees to incentivize redevelopment. But we never waive the fire district fees, and the fire district fees are significant, and they appear upon our bill that we're collecting. And so it does artificially look like the village is generating additional revenue that we're in fact turning right over to the fire district for fire district services. So that's what I meant by that statement.
Well, but that's what we're doing essentially. I mean, anybody who's going to come in and develop in East Dundee is going to get a layout of exactly what the costs are, one of which is going to be an impact fee for the fire district. Fine. I, as a developer, I'm not going to question the village of East Dundee as to whether or not they're getting the money. Obviously, it's attributable to the fire district. So I'm really not understanding why we're doing this, except for to give more control to the fire district. And what I'm worried about is whether or not this is going to allow for a querying of the deal on the part of the fire district for any development that comes into Dundee or East Dundee. What we're talking about essentially is two different government entities, a left hand and a right hand, and as we all know, they never talk to each other. And so it's going to complicate things. And this is what I'm thinking, that, you know, if everything else goes according to plan, but for whatever reason, the fire district is going to be a little bit more difficult to work with, does this allow for a developer to walk away because of it?
So we would still help the developer understand what the fees are. We do that anyway. There's several fees that are collected by other agencies. For example, King County has an impact fee. IDOT has fees. So we always alert the developer of the various fees, but I do believe the way the ordinance is written and the way the IGA is written, that we're not losing any control. The village is the one who establishes the impact fee. The fire district will now have the burden of proof to complete a needs assessment on a triannual basis, showing that the fee is appropriate. And we will retain the building permit until we receive a receipt of the fee. So also, we still have the ability within our ordinance to waive the fire district fee if we want. We typically do not waive the fire district fee. We waive the village's fees because the village gets fees from the TIF districts and the BDDs. So we still have the ability to create the fee and waive the fee. So we've retained all of the control. Just for administrative purposes, we would rather have them collect the fee, and then we don't have to worry about processing a request. Oftentimes, the fire district will not know that we've completed a development deal, that someone's coming into town. So we have to tell them we have it. They have to come and then request it. And it's just not happening as smoothly as possible. But I think, in my opinion, we still have all of the control. By ordinance, we have all the control. We create the fee, we amend the fee, we can waive the fee. So we have all the control we had before, we'll still have.
Well, okay, so then this periodic assessment that needs to be done every 3 years for them to show whatever levels of fees that they're going to charge the district. I mean, they're going to be setting up the criteria and to do that assessment, correct? I mean, is the village going to have any input in that at all?
Yes, we do. They have to basically document to us that the fee has been established in a way that, you know, meets certain criteria, but also in this IGA, the village is benefiting because previously we had to do the needs assessment, and then we had to defend in court any of the fees that may be challenged at some point. So through this intergovernmental agreement, we've said to the fire district, you establish the fees based on the impact you'll be receiving, and you defend the challenges in court, and they've agreed to that. So this is a win for the village as far as a decrease in liability.
Okay, you just said earlier, though, that the village is still going to have the ability to waive the impact fee to the district that the district could charge. I mean, I was under the understanding that this was them taking control of establishing the fee, collecting the fee, and administering it. So in other words, we're not going to have any input at all on this. And so what I'm afraid of is that the district is going to be able to hold sway over the village as to any future developments if they don't want to go along with whatever is being proposed. Can they queer a deal, in other words, if something comes into the town that they don't care for?
Let me just.
Oh, it's still our fee. We're home rule, they're not. So we create the fee under our home rule authority, they cannot. It is our fee.
Have we ever waived the fire district impact fees?
Not since I've been here.
I don't remember that we ever have.
No, I don't recall ever doing it, but what I'm wondering then too is, what about any other governmental entity, the trust, the township, the school board, that kind of thing, school district, whatever, they all have their impact fees as well. I'm just wondering if, if we're gonna be putting, all these chefs in the kitchen, it sounds like we might end up regretting it. I mean, am I being just paranoid here, or is there any legitimacy to what I'm
Yeah.
I'm
saying?
not sure what the question is. I'm not sure what the concern is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the harm is here, Jeff.
Well, I'm just wondering if what we're doing here is allowing everybody else who's normally going to get their impact fee to take charge of it. Like, for instance,
Why would that be a bad thing?
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just wondering if what it can do is cause, a lot of administrative hassle. And I mean, if I have to jump through 8 hoops instead of 1 as a developer, I might go down to another town and look to, break ground somewhere else. And that's all I'm worried about. The other thing is, in the write-up on this, it indicated that the fire district can request a contribution of land, or in lieu thereof, an impact fee. So what if the fire district decides, we want land for our piece instead of money?
That's a negotiation, and it's always been that way. And it's also the same way with the school district. It's always been that way.
Okay, but if they hold
And
fast to their...
It would only work if it was a benefit to the developer to do that. Similar to like when we were growing up, if you had a big development in town, you got a school built. They don't do that anymore, but that was one of the things. I'll give you land for a school. I'll give you some cash. You build this thing over here, waive the impact fees. Things are done differently now, but it's basically no different. So they've always had that ability to do that. And again, that's just a negotiation with them, where perhaps you've got a developer, like, for example, Althofer has an extra 14 acres. Maybe there's a possibility that they would throw the fire district 2 or 3 acres because they want to put a substation there.
Right, and I guess and what I'm wondering is that as I read this, it gave the choice of whether it would be a land request or a money request to the district. And if in the event the district wanted a land contribution as opposed to an impact fee, and the dealer or the developer wasn't able to accommodate that, where does that put the village? I mean, I know it's a lot of what ifs.
So if the developer, if the district would like land over the contribution, as long as the fire district was going to use lands that met our zoning, I'm not sure what the concern would be. We are not in receipt of the money, so if the land benefits the fire district, then
Yeah, and let's
would they be able to make that determination?
go back to my example, which I think is a real life example. Let's just say, for example, and it's not going to happen because it's way too close, but it could happen somewhere else in town, where the fire district says, we want to put up another substation someplace. There's a developer that has 40 acres over there that they're going to develop, and they owe us $200,000 in impact fees. The price of the land for the 2 acres that they would need to build a substation is less than the $200,000. At that point, they can have a negotiation where they go to the developer and say, hey, instead of paying you $200,000, would you give me these 2 acres of land because we need a substation? That's the only way I can see this, and I just don't see that as problematic.
Okay.
President Miller, if I could just quickly, just to hopefully assuage your fear slightly, it sounds like what you're wondering is if the fire district could force someone to give them land rather than an impact fee.
Exactly. If the choice is theirs, what if they say, give us the land?
That's not the situation. The situation, it's the fee in lieu. Would be as I believe both Jennifer and President Miller were saying, it would be to benefit the developer if they had extra land or if a deal would be reached. But impact fees always have to be reasonable and justified, and it could not, the fire district, they would always have to allow them to pay the fee, rather that they couldn't force a land sale or a donation or something like that. That would not be legally allowed by the courts. It's the fee in lieu type of land agreement is meant for when it's beneficial to both parties or to the developer, not as a bargaining tool for a government entity to try to forcefully take land from a.
Yeah,
Good enough.
to
Thank
add
you.
one final note on that. This is nothing specific to East Dundee. The agreements that fire districts have and libraries have and park districts have and lots of other entities have, this is across the country. I don't know if it's in all states. Certainly different states have different setups. You know, Texas is a radically different beast than we are. But in a lot of the states surrounding us, you're going to have the same agreements. So this is not something that we're imposing here on our, you know, our potential developers.
Yeah, no, I'm just laying out the what ifs, you know, I mean, every time I read this or anything, you know, I just immediately think, well, what if this, what if that? And just want to make sure that, you know, the village is covered.
Yep, that's a fine thing. So I hope you're satisfied at this point.
I am.
Okay, we have, do we have a motion and a second on this?
Yes.
Okay, do we have any further discussion on this item? Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
trustee Stella,
Yes.
trustee Wood,
Yes.
trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
Okay, very good. Item B, if we can have a motion on item B of new business, please.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending chapter 159 of the village code regarding development impact fees.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Well, it's not a voting item, but is this related to A?
Why is this not a voting? What do you mean not a voting?
Oh, I mean, it wasn't an open item for, you know, there was no supporting documentation in the agenda to open
Oh,
it.
okay.
This is in fact amending the village code so that regarding the impact fees, yes.
For item A.
Because they were related, I included it in one agenda supplement under A. So the ordinance and the description of the ordinance is in the agenda. But we needed to make two changes to the village code. One saying that we can have an IGA with the fire district. And the other amendment was to just clarify that the fees can be used for services or capital improvements. We had a small housekeeping item that we wanted to clean up at this point. We had two conflicting sections in the village code with regards to what the fees could be used for. So those are the two changes in the ordinance. Thank you.
Can I ask if it was us who sought this IGA or if it was the fire district? Did they
Was
come
it-
with this or did we go to them?
It was, I believe it just came up in discussions between the building department and the fire district because they were discussing the fees that we were currently holding. And Chris and I had talked often and said, wow, wouldn't it be easier if they just collect their own fees? So I think it was almost simultaneous. It was just came out of a conversation. Wow, this would be a lot easier.
So based on the termination understanding within this, if they are going to be doing this for first time ever, and they find that administratively it's more than they can handle, with a written agreement back to us, that terminates this whole thing after a period of 90 days? Is that true? I mean, we have any say if we don't, I mean, if it's working out great for the village, let's say, but not so much for the district, or vice versa, it doesn't really matter. Either party can notify or terminate the agreement just by notifying the other party
Pretty
in
standard
writing.
language in contracts though.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the termination clause.
I mean, it seemed like
Is that
a
what
very-
you're reading?
Yeah, and it seemed like a very easy thing to get out of for either party with regard to contracts. It's generally a little bit more onerous. And this just indicates that if you want to get out, just let us know in 90 days and you're done. You know, whether we want it or not, we don't have any say in the matter. As long as they tell us in writing, it's over.
I guess I'll ask our attorney to weigh in on that and let us know if that's just standard boilerplate.
That's a very standard termination agreement and an agreement like this that either party would be able to get out of the agreement upon. That's actually a very long notice period. Typically they're shorter than that. So that would give the village extended time to prepare for having to collect the impact fee again if the fire district was to terminate it.
Okay.
Okay. Item B, any more? Catherine?
Actually, one thing I will say is section 6 references that termination is in section 4. Termination is in section 5.
Okay.
There's a typo.
Okay. Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
trustee Sella,
Yes.
trustee Wood,
Yes.
trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
and trustee Coonsey.
Yes.
Very good. I need a motion on item C of new business, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular village board meeting minutes dated August 17th, 2020.
Second.
Very good. Discussion? Catherine?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
trustee Sella,
Yes.
trustee Wood,
Yes.
trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
and trustee Coonsey.
Yes.
Very good. Item D on new business is a discussion. You have some information in your packet that I hope you'd all looked and considered. We have talked to trustee Lineham about repairing the depot. I think we all agree that we need roofing, paint repairs. The roofing, obviously, we're going to have to contract somebody out. Some of the repairs trustee Lineham has taken among him or upon himself to fix, which is, I think, great. And then we need a discussion regarding the paint. Trustee Lineham has some colors which are very, as far as I can tell, are very similar to the first collection of colors that Zeller has shown you in the packet there. And then there's some interesting designs, some radical designs, I think I would say, in Zeller's packet. So we just need to have a brief discussion so we could have a game plan going forward, because trustee Lineham and I believe some volunteers are interested in painting the depot and making it look beautiful. We just need to figure out.
If I can just let you all know where I'm at with this, I fixed the gutters, fixed a couple of the sills, I fixed the posts that were all coming apart. Some of the siding that was rotted has been completed, and the building has been power washed. And so I got that done yesterday, in fact. And so right now we're ready to paint. The chip that I included really hardly does it justice, because I've seen a larger picture of what the building would look like with that color scheme. If you think about what we've got down there, we've got the Anvil Club, we've got Scott's building, and then we've got Diamond Gyms, and each one is a base color with a cream, a variation of a cream trim. And my thought was to stay with the gray but go with the cream trim and a soft kind of not a graphite, but kind of a graphite black around the windows. I did find a lot of examples on Pinterest, as a matter of fact, of actual depot buildings, and 75, maybe 80% of which were a gray. So I don't know if the people who had originally done the depot and the committee and that sort of thing knew this, but gray seemed to be a very popular color with this type of building. So the base of the siding would be a gray, similar to what it is now. It shows an edge. It's a little bit darker than the dark gray that we have on the depot currently would be this linen color, and it's a cream color, but not in the vein of what's on the Anvil Club or Scott's building. It's actually got black in it, so it kind of tones it down a little bit more into the gray families. And then obviously around the windows would be the black trim. So everything is, I'm ready to roll. The building is ready to paint. And so I'm hoping that I'll be able to do this. I did get a chance to see Zeller's examples, obviously in our packet. And I really don't know how to comment on that. So I'm going to let it go to the group. But
Jeff, are any of the photos on the packet of your proposed colors?
You know, it isn't, but you know what I do have, and I wish I would have included it. There is a photo of a very large home with this color scheme on the swatch example that on the Sherwin-Williams packet that has on the cover of it, a very large home with this color scheme. And so, as I say, that little chip, the picture of that little chip hardly does those colors justice.
What,
If
what
you look
chip-
at the strips,
what chip are we talking about?
colors are, it's even more striking. So
Page 132 of the packet, there's a chip in the upper left-hand corner.
right, if you go to page 132 of it, on the left side there, it shows the little, I cut that out of the brochure that, or the pamphlet that Sherwin-Williams offers, just to send to both Leah and Jennifer on this. And I should have included the picture of
Hey, Jeff. Hey,
because
Jeff.
the actual cover had those actual
Jeff?
colors.
Do you have that pamphlet with you? Can you just share it on your screen? We have the ability to share screens if it's permitted. So
I don't have it with me here. No, I don't have it handy, unfortunately, but I can get it and send it out to everybody. You know, that's not a problem. But of course, too, if you just take a look at those colors, if you perhaps wanted to just go on to sherwinwilliams.com and take a look at some of the pictures that they have out there, I'm sure that they would offer this, because it's one of the examples. If you go to the paint store, this was at Lowe's, by the way, and in the rack they had all kinds of different larger pamphlets, and you open it up into a trifold kind of thing, and there was examples of the different color schemes that they had and showing it, and it really did give a much better feel for what these colors will do together than that little chip affords.
This is Kirsten. I have a question regarding the renderings that have the East Dundee logo on the depot itself. And on page 133, are we looking at doing that? Because I kind of like it. I don't know if that's part of this plan or if everyone else hates it, but
it wasn't part of my original thought. My original thought was just to go with what we have, but give it a nice facelift and brighten it up. Here's the beautiful part about this whole thing is it's just paint. So if we were to be able to just go with a certain color scheme, if in the event either the group or the public or whoever didn't care for it, well, we're not out anything, because as I say, I'm getting the paint donated and the labor is free. That's on me. So if we go with this, that's great. If it's people like it, fine. If they don't, well, then it's just paint. We can start over.
Well, hold on.
My initial thought didn't include putting the words depot in 6-foot letters across the back of the building. No.
I'm a bit concerned by one of your statements there, which is then we're going to paint it, and then if the public doesn't like it, we're going to paint it something else.
Well, not so much the public, but my point is that it's just paint.
But I think
We're not talking about establishing a new direction for the village or, anything that's indelible. Paint is the beautiful thing about paint is you can change it pretty easily. So I guess what I'm saying is that we haven't had, I don't know if I haven't had any discussion with either the township or the visitor center committee for them to weigh in, and they may either love it or hate it. And I suppose for every person that loves it, there will be one that doesn't. And
I can guarantee that.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I think that since we've gone with this logo and we put a lot of thought and time into selecting the logo that we've now put on everything in the village, that to me it's a good idea to put the logo on the depot itself.
Well, the logo is technically already on there. If you take a look at the east side, which faces river, up above the main door, there is the logo. Now, it's not currently the logo that Zeller shows that we've just currently adopted, but that's easy enough to change out, I suppose.
Sure.
Okay.
But
And exactly. And on page 133, if you look at the two pictures on the right, I like that. On the left, I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think need that.
Yeah, for my purposes, for my part, I'm kind of a purist and a minimalist at heart. And when I saw what Zeller offered, thank you for the offer, Zeller. But boy, I'll tell you, I think what they've offered makes it look like a circus wagon, and I think it's gonna look silly. I really do.
There's all kinds of opinions.
There is.
Well,
Okay.
as a clown on the board, I kind of like the East Dundee logo, and especially considering that's the side of the building that faces my window, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's boring as hell.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's my point, Scott.
Exactly.
I plan to brighten it up with the paint, and I think that what we've made as far as the choices go, we'll do that.
So-
As far as painting or putting on that logo, though, that's going to require some sort of. I mean, I'm not going to be able to have the steady hand that would require to put that on there. So I don't know if it would be
No, it would have to be a sign.
stencil or something along that line.
Probably a stencil, wouldn't it?
It would have to be a sign.
Well, okay, our sign maybe, simply because the clapboard siding is a little bit ribbed.
Yeah.
And so it would be, if you get up close to the building, you'll see the challenges of putting something like that on if you applied it with paint. If you applied it as a sign and attached it to the wall, certainly that'll make things easier.
Okay. Let's put some things back in a box here so that we can control this a little bit better, because we're shooting out all over the place like Roman candles. First of all, let's talk to the board. So if the board members could weigh in on this by raising their hands or voicing, let's start with simple.
I'm still not clear on what Jeff's vision is.
I understand.
For this.
Well, if you
So-
I could describe it then for you really quickly. I mean, but you don't get as good a feel for it because I don't have the ability to do what Zeller did. If you take a look at the gray on the chip that is listed there, that would be the body of the depot, the walls. The black stone color would be around the windows, and the linen would be the soffits and the gutters and the posts, what currently is the darker gray color on depot now. So you'll get the main body of the building will be gray. It's going to be a tone down, but it'll be a little bit darker than what's on there now. What's on there now is just so sun bleached. It's hard to even call it a gray because it's never been painted before. So, it was built in '87 and I don't think it's been painted since. But, so the body of the paint of the building would be the gray that's on that chip. What's the darker gray trim would be that linen color. And then around the windows and the light fixtures and so
The
forth.
middle color on the chip. Linen is the middle color on the chip.
Yes, the cream color. That would be what's currently on the depot is the dark gray, the soffits, the gutters, that sort of thing. And then around the windows of the depot right now would be that black, that color that's called black stone. And it really is hard. That little chip, I'm really kind of disappointed because it didn't really come out that well, because it's a very soft black. It's not a very stark black. It's more, it's a much more muted, powder coated kind of graphite black than you'd see. And it's not like a very stark, dark black. There's a lot of different blacks. It's amazing.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, I would really like to just be able to take this project that I wanted to do, and this was just something that I wanted to do for the village. And my whole point behind doing it, my whole motive was to save a few bucks for the residents. Certainly, if we would replace the gutters, we're talking $6,000, $7,000 for that style of gutter. I was able to repair all the leaks with JB Weld, and boom, no more leaks. So we can get a few years out of those, a lot actually. The siding on the north face that faces Barrington Avenue had some rot that was going around the window. And rather than tear off all those clapboards and, do a lot of surgery, I was able to patch that. If once you paint it over, you're never going to notice the patch will be gone. And of course, that'd extend the life of the siding. And then of course, the posts that I repaired, those were just, man, those were
That's all good stuff and greatly appreciated by everybody.
yeah, no, but and as I say, I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm just looking for, just the green light to be able to do this and take it to the end that I envisioned for it. And if you let me do that, I'll give you a really nice looking building. And if afterwards you don't like what you see, we can always come back and decide to put money into it to paint it something else. So I guess what I'm asking for is the green light just to go with what I originally thought.
So I guess my question is, just because I'm kind of more of a nuts and bolts guy, is like, what kind of paint are we using? Are we not priming first? Are you going to scuff sand the paint before you paint it? I mean, what's your process?
Oh, I've already scraped it. I've already gone through that. And like I say, I power washed it really, really well. So I don't think there's really going to be a need to prime it, but I'm hoping that the paint that I'm going to get, it's a Sherwin-Williams color. I've got an arrangement right now with Home Depot, and they've got paint that includes a primer, so it'll eliminate that step. But Sherwin-Williams has the same sort of thing there as well. And so what I thought I might do is contact them and see where we stood with them. I don't think there's going to be either them or Lowe's or Home Depot that wouldn't be willing to donate 15 gallons of paint or whatever it's going to cost to have a sign put out there that says paint graciously donated by your local Home Depot or your local Lowe's or whatever. And so, as I say, my whole point behind the thing was just to extend the life of it and not have to go through a government process to get it done. Only because it's
Actually, Jeff, while you're going, the building just fell down.
What's that?
While you're still talking, the building just fell down.
Yeah, right. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. And it would fall down except for the gutters and except for those posts. Those things are solid rock now.
We need to bring, go ahead.
So yeah, I reached out to Phil Leo to see if, he's the local historian, to see if in his records he had any documentation as to what the original color was, so that we can be somewhat historically,
the original color of this depot?
Yeah, at least to have that in mind. Back when it was a real depot. He does not have that information. He did send me some other depots built around the same time. And I sent them to everybody, just to you and Lael and Jennifer, just because I can't send the stuff out to everybody due to the Open Meetings Act or whatever. So my big concern is your color scheme is not so much of a concern, but what is a concern is the lighter trim colors that you've got called out for the soffit. When you look at the historical depots, of the posts and trims and the kind of things are of a darker shade, either a darker brown or a darker black color, as opposed to the cream. Whereas all of the stuff that Otto has been doing in their reinterpretations and fixing up of these old buildings has got the cream trims on it, which is really more of a 20th century or a 21st century interpretation of color schemes. So whereas when you look at what Zeller did with the dark black trims, that's closer to something that's historical.
Where can you get examples of that? Because the examples that I've found are pretty much the opposite. If you go out there and take a look, and there's a lot of examples out there. Yeah. Well, then you're finding as many as I am, and they're contrasting. Like I figured that with what I found on Pinterest and a few other sites, that with as many that were gray with, it was amazing really how many different shades of gray with a cream trim were out there. I'm thinking, well, God, that really kind of fits in with what we have with 4 or 5 other buildings down there. Because if you take a look at like Cliff Surgis's building down the street on River, if you take a look at you know, Anvil Club
We
and
get
Diamond
this
Gems
like committee.
and Scottsville.
Lionel, do we need to kick
They all
this
have-
set up committee so we're not here till midnight tonight?
Yeah.
I gotta cut you guys off on this one. This is a discussion.
All right.
And I know we want to get going on this, but we have to bring some rationality to it. And I'm not going to argue who has the best Googling skills and looking up.
No, and I don't either, but this is the thing I wanted. I just didn't want the government thing to get in the way and slow it down. Like I say, I'm ready to roll on this. So, you know, the only harm that's going to come if I go with what I'm thinking is that if it's not acceptable or people don't like it, we're not out anything as a village. All we're out now is to decide, do we want to repaint it again?
How do we
I'll
determine?
tell you what, whatever we do, if I go ahead with what I thought, it's going to be far better than what it is. That I can guarantee.
But what are you basing your criteria on? Is it going to be Facebook comments? Is it going to be people you meet in the coffee shop? Who is it?
No, I'm going to leave it up to the board. I'm going to leave it up to the committee, the visitors committee. I'll leave it up to the local merchants, the people who are down there, and public comment, sure. You know, but I'm not going to poll the audience or anything, but I'll just leave it up to the board to say, you know what, let's talk to the township. Let's talk to the visitor committee.
We gotta bring this meeting to a close at some point before the sun comes up. So I think you've said the piece, and I appreciate all you've done. Now, let me see if I could break this down into some small steps here, and then maybe we can get, you know, whether I said raise your hand or voice vote, whatever you want to do. There are several pictures on Zellers that had logos on the side. There were the two round logos, and then there were East Dundee on the end caps. Who thinks that having the logo of some form on the building is a good idea?
Aye.
I would have to agree with you.
Well, if can I ask, I mean, just to make one quick
I
comment.
do.
If what we're talking about is trying to keep with a historical nature of a depot type building, that's not it. Just to let you know, I mean, that's, you're never going to find that.
But it's not, it's no longer a depot. It's not a functioning railroad yard. This is not a passenger terminal.
No, I know that. I know that, but
it also has plumbing and lighting on the inside, which I'm assuming people did. So there are some nods to more modernization, I think.
I think what you have to keep in mind, I'm trying to stay out of this, but I think what you have to keep in mind is one of our strategic planning goals is branding. We have a new logo, and this building can be used as an asset for really advertising our brand. I mean, beyond the historic nature of it, and I think that's where the colors came from. They came from our banners. And maybe they're a little wild, and that's fine. But any opportunity we can to brand ourselves in this way, we absolutely should do it, regardless of the color of the siding. You know, I would love to see our logos used for that purpose.
And right above the main entrance, we have an East Dundee.
But that does no good for anybody going through town on the bike path. The only introduction that we have to our community to a lot of people is when they ride through our town on the bike path. And I would like to have East Dundee on the end caps, and I'd like to have the logo on the side of the wall facing the bike path, because they're going to see this beautiful downtown, and you want to keep rebounding East Dundee.
Okay, agreed.
Yeah, and if you want to put the East Dundee logo above the main door, that's
Jeff, hang on. We have 3 logos on the building. We have an East Dundee on both ends, north and south, and we have the depot logo over the door.
right. If we wanted to change those to the current logos, that's cool.
Okay, all what this would be doing would be adding it to the one side of the building that faces Diamond Gyms and.
And unifying them.
Okay.
And unifying them into one style.
Yeah, but you might have, like I say, you're probably gonna have to attach a sign to the wall.
I think we should.
At that point yet, okay? We're not there. We've determined that we want a logo. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what it's made out of. We don't know who's gonna put it up. We're gonna do that. Okay, so now if I could break this down to a next simple question here, if that's even possible without making things awkward. How many trustees believe that Trustee Lynham's plan, we should just go in with this thing and let him paint this thing and see how it looks? Or
I'm okay with that as long as the board's got a consensus as a color scheme.
Okay.
I'm fine with that as long as we put the logos on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's afterwards. Yeah,
I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
cool.
I'm fine with the color scheme, but not with the arrangement of the ivory trim.
So your suggestion would be what, Kathleen?
My suggestion would be that the black is what it goes around the windows, and all of the trims and the doors similar to what I just sent out before the meeting and Jennifer forwarded to everybody, not the cream. Just leave the cream on the doors as it is currently.
So basically,
and I'll tell you,
It's going to be similar to what it is now, just darker.
right. And that's why I'm trying to brighten it up just a bit, but let me paint it the color that I'm thinking. And especially if it's trim, it'd be even easier to paint, because we're talking about even less paint to begin with. I mean, if the trim color when we get done is the only thing that is not, adequate or whatever, then that would even be easier to paint over,
It's going to be hard for you, Jeff, it's going to be hard for you to paint over white over that dark gray trim.
Oh, well, if it takes two coats, that's fine.
It sounds like you've already got the paint.
No, I don't. But if it takes 2 coats, then that's not a problem.
All right, any other historical train depot trustees want to weigh in on this color scheme?
He cannot help you.
Okay, right now, it looks like we have consensus to have Jeff move forward with one objection from Kathleen, just simply due to a color. So does anybody want to jump in the hot water here and say that they like Kathleen's suggestion and Jeff should modify his based on the color?
Well, what I'm
Can I
saying,
Jeff, you've said enough. Hold on, let me speak real quick. Can I request that, because again, we've got these color mock-ups that they did. I think it would be helpful to all of us, because again, to actually visualize what Jeff's color scheme is, which again, I'm not saying I disagree with it. I just don't know for sure that I understand it, and have them like actually do a mock-up with Jeff's 3 colors. So you can see it.
See that, and that's okay, Scott. The only thing of it is that it just slows the whole process down. I'm ready to paint.
Jeff, it's looked like garbage for 3 years. Another 3
Otherwise,
days.
you're gonna have to pay $10,000 to have someone come in and do it, because it's like, I can't kill the whole month doing this. I'm ready to roll now. And I mean, it's not like I'm trying to force it through, but if we're gonna do that, we're talking about pushing this to the end of the month and then well into October before it gets done. I get it. What I'm thinking is that if I get the body painted and I start doing the trim, you'll know whether or not you like it right away. We can always stop it from that point on.
Well, did you ever hear the phrase "measure twice, cut once"?
Yeah.
I guess that goes for paint too.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Look
Because
twice,
you
paint
can
once.
correct.
All right.
You can correct paint.
I need to herd all the kittens back in the box again. Here's what I need from you guys. If we make a suggestion that Jeff can go ahead and paint the depot, and when he's done with this, at the end of the day there, are we gonna go back and say, hey, let's repaint this, trim this color or something else? Is that an option? Do we want to even go there?
Why don't we just give Jeff the go-ahead to just paint the body part of it, and then we have Zeller do the options both ways, and we can look at it in the next meeting, or it can be sent out to the team and the next day, and it won't slow him down.
Well, I guess the question
Here's what I can do is send you the picture that I have from Sherwin-Williams's color swatch. Their advertisement, I don't know what you call it, a brochure or whatever. If you want, I could send that out and give you an idea of what these colors look like together on a building. That might give it a better feel.
I have a suggestion. Okay, so Jeff is into painting, carpentry, handyman. Kathleen is into branding and marketing. Why don't you just leave it to those two to decide out there at the moment? I'm sure you guys can come to an agreement. Put the paint on the building, put some paint on the trim, and decide.
Yes.
I think the board would trust you two to come up with this answer.
I would.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Me too. I'm good with that.
I'll start painting. If you don't, if whatever I do isn't agreed or you don't like it, it's
Jeff,
always.
Just let me know when you've got something done.
It's just paint. If you don't like it, we can always change it. So.
Okay.
Then I'm going to be the jerk, because you.
Well, then you paint it.
And then I'm going to be the jerk that's going to ask you to redo something because you didn't go through and show everybody before you got started on
No,
this. and
everyone will
invested
have
in
an
it.
opportunity to take a look at this, and I'll send you a picture of what this is going to look like. I mean, as I
Kathleen,
say,
if it makes you feel better, I'm right across the street. I'll come over and play translator, and I'll be the jerk. I'm good at it.
All right, well, we got something out of this. I will have to say though, and maybe I surprise you on this one or not, I don't know. I actually like the one on, what page is this now? Hang on, I got so many windows open here. I think it was 135. Yeah.
oh God, Leo.
Hey,
Which would,
3/4 conservative and 1/4 progressive. I think it kind of shows we're willing to be bold and move in new directions.
No, okay, man, but if what we're talking about is anything
No, Jeff,
besides what Zeller offered and the logos on the building, anything beyond that,
We are
I
done.
would say
Thank
let's
you.
just
We
move
are
on
moving
to item
Proclamation
E.
for Constitution Week, September 17th. I am not going to read it. I am just going to proclaim that it is done. We also have a proclamation establishing it is our Fox River Day, a watershed-wide celebration. Is anybody here from, Jennifer, what was the background on this? Was this something that we came up with, or were Friends of the Fox or somebody?
It was the Friends of the Fox requested us to put this on the agenda.
Very good. I hereby proclaim it's our Fox River Day, a watershed-wide celebration. Hear ye, it is now in effect. Financial reports you have in your packet. I have no report this evening. We will go around the table and see who is there. Kathleen Mahoney.
No report.
Trustee Andreessen.
No report.
Trustee Selup.
thanks for painting the building, Jeff.
Just
No
let it go.
problem. Haven't done it yet, though.
All right, Trustee Coonsey.
I had a question for Phil. We had talked over email about the street sweeping. I'm sorry, but I swear I remember that street sweeper came down our street weekly. I don't know, maybe it was not last year, maybe it was the year before. I've talked to other people, they remember this as well. Is there a reason? I mean, we own a street sweeper, right?
We do, correct. Mhm.
So what is the point of only doing it once per quarter or once in a while? What is that? Are we just trying to save labor, or what is the point of doing that less than, say, once a week?
Well, I think in part it's a function of need as well. Our streets, this time of year we're starting with the stress and the drought and the stress that the season has had an impact on the trees. We're seeing far more leaf activity and on the ground. So we actually had the sweeper out last week, and then here before too long, it's going to be out regularly, routinely to collect leaves that have fallen onto the streets through the leaf collection season. But during the spring and summer, we typically get it out at the beginning of the spring season after the snow's gone, and obviously the streets could use a kind of a post-winter cleanup. If there's a storm event like we had back in, I want to say the second week or so of August, we had it out and swept the village. Occasionally we'll get it out if there's an opportunity during the winter season. If we have a break in the cold, snowy weather, if there's a few days where we've got some temperatures that will allow us to clean the streets, we may do it then as well. And it's also a function of staffing too. We don't have the ability to have it out every week because, or even every other week, or really perhaps even slightly more than that. Just we have so many other priorities that we try to balance sweeping with other needs in the community, whether it's tree trimming or pothole patching or sidewalk replacement, sure. And the list goes on and on. So I hope that answers your question. But
are we currently short-staffed due to COVID or anything like that?
Right now we are, all of our staff is back in the village full time, but we are down we have two vacancies in the department currently.
Okay. So we are a little bit short-staffed then.
We are, correct. And during the pandemic, we were down to, well, I shouldn't say we were still in the pandemic, but during the early months of the pandemic, we were down to two operational team members pretty much daily. We were down to two, and then a supervisor, either Greg or myself, was typically in the village, as opposed to working from home. So for the first probably 3 months-ish plus, we only had two to three in the town on any given day.
Okay. All right. And I also wanted to offer congratulations to Catherine.
Yes.
Who we got that really early report last Friday, and I was just really confused by why it came so early. And then I saw on social media that she had ran off to get married. So congratulations to Catherine.
All right. Should we
And
sing?
that's
Aye,
all
aye.
I have to say.
Way to go, Catherine.
Very good. Trustee Lineham, you have 3
Thank you.
What's that now?
You have 3 seconds remaining for your report.
Okay, good enough, because I got 3 items.
You're
One, the Flood Brothers dumpster at Fireman's Park. If you're going north on 3rd Street towards Fireman's Park, that's really a bad look. Is there any way we can get Flood Brothers to move that thing off to the side of the building and still be able to get at it? And then maybe even talk to the fire department about building a kind of a barrier fence to hide it a little bit, because it really looks poor. And I mean, right there, Fireman's Park is a nice view, and the bike path is right there. But man, that dumpster is really, really dismal. So if we can look into asking Flood Brothers to move that thing off to the side of the building so you can't see it when you're on,
We'll work with the fire department on that one.
that'd be great.
Okay.
2 other items. They're warrants related. There was charges to from Hines Engineering for the Max Welton 509 property for that big garage. $750 total. I'm assuming that the petitioners are going to pay for that and not the village. Is that a safe assumption?
That's a tough one. Chris, I
Well,
don't
we
know.
incurred the cost. I can't imagine why. That really should be on them.
We required it of them, remember, as part of the special use.
That was for the landscaping plan, right?
Yeah.
I
that
don't
we
know
were-
what it was.
we
It just indicated
required.
on Joe Heinz's itemized list that was going to Heinz's, 509 Max Welton, and there was 2 different charges. That's all it
I've got to look it
said.
up. Did we write that as a billable? Chris, do you see that in front of you as a billable expense or?
It was not billable to them, no.
Okay, yeah, in my mind, I think that's a very difficult one. We did ask them to go above and beyond, and we also delayed their approval. I would defer to President Miller on whether we bill that out or not.
All right, and then the other question I have, and certainly on the warrants list, is Baxter and Woodman Engineers for $900. We have Heinz. Why are we paying another engineering firm? I'm just curious as to what they're doing.
Director Cotter, can you answer that, please?
Yes, I believe, and I would,
This is
that might
MS4
be,
services.
yes, I was going to say, that's our stormwater, they helped us renew our stormwater, our MS4 permit.
Okay. Any other question I have is, when are we going to open up the Village Hall? Carpentersville, West Dundee, they're all open, ready for business, and they're having their meetings. When are we going to do away with Zoom?
I can weigh in on that. I've been asked this question frequently, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did answer that question. And my answer would be that is at the direction of the village board. As the incident commander in this crisis, I never thought a crisis would go on for, we're into 6 months. I've had to make some tough decisions. I see our village as different. We service 3,000 residents and we have very few customers. So we've taken the opportunity to provide what I think would be better customer service, which is the customer service that's electronic, where you don't have to go to the village hall and you don't have to make it there by 4 o'clock. I feel good about that decision because I reported to you that one of the employees of the village hall did recently come down with COVID. Her husband also came down with it. He was hospitalized and on a ventilator. He's doing okay. He just returned home from the hospital. But, you know, if she had been at work in the village hall, we all would have contracted it because it is a very small house, essentially, the facility. It also would have been transferred to the police department and possibly the public works department if we continued to do our interaction that we used to do between the departments and at department head staff meetings. So I feel very comfortable with the direction we're headed. We don't have a lot of staff to pick up the slack when we're down, and we need to pay bills and we need to provide water and we need to protect the police department first and foremost. And that's why we don't have meetings in the police station, is to protect the police department, so that if, you know, our country is, you know, there's a lot of challenges right now and we need a strong police department. But with that being said, you know, that is up to the village board. If you want to reopen, you know, we'll reopen and we'll put precautionary measures in place. But I do feel confident that what we've been doing is a great step in the right direction. And I feel like we're providing as good, if not better, services than we were before.
And just for the record, West Dundee's Village Hall is probably 3 times the size of our meeting room. And Carpentersville looks like a baseball field compared to ours. I mean, it's huge. So there's a lot easier for them to social distance.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the end of the day, I don't see that we're losing anything as far as our outreach to our residents. And we're taking an abundance of caution to keep everybody safe and healthy, because to Jennifer's point, you know, if something goes squirrely again this fall, we're going to need every police officer we got. And we don't need anybody stuck at home for 14 days quarantining.
Okay. So that takes us to Trustee Wood.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of the village for the support of the passing of my brother, and the flowers were beautiful, and your assistance, Phil, with Fireman's Park. So that was all I had. And I like the new fall flowers in the baskets.
Good. Village Administrator.
Thank you. I have just a couple of items. I'll try to keep it brief. Oh, I hate to do this, but I guess I will report back that we didn't discuss the roof at the depot, so I'll just bring that back to the board when we have firmer proposals for discussion on the roof. It doesn't seem like it's that urgent. I also wanted to let you know that we did have a planning and zoning commission meeting, and I don't know if anyone was going to report on this. It was regarding the Historic Commission, whereby the commission denied a request to demo the former Dick West property. It's in the historic district, and they have the right to appeal or come back and provide more information. So basically the request was denied for lack of information. The commission didn't have a clear understanding whether it was going to be graded and seeded, or whether a parking lot was being requested for that property. So that was on behalf of a property owner related to Bandito Barty. So I wanted to let you know that. I also wanted to let you know that we are wrapping up hiring for a public works laborer. And we do think we do have one. So to Trustee Coonsey's question earlier, I wanted to let you know that we are only short-staffed because recruitment has been very challenging over the last year and a half, but we do think we have a candidate that is ready to fill one of those positions. And the other position, for the time being, we have supplemented with contractual wastewater operator services. So we'll be closer to complete staffing, because we don't want to not get to things. To your point, we want to be proactive and make sure the streets are swept and everything else. Okay, I'll stop now unless anyone has questions for me. Thank you.
Village Attorney.
No report.
Village Engineer.
No report.
Public Works.
No report.
Building Official.
No report.
Public comment from anybody in the audience that would like to speak with us? Okay, I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn at this point as we have no further business to attend to.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Kathleen?
Trustee Lineham,
Yes.
trustee Salip,
Yes.
trustee Wood,
Yes.
trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes, please.
and President Miller.
Yes. All right, very good, folks, thank you all for your time. And as the saying goes, you don't have to leave, but you can't stay here. So we will see you
Right.
another time.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.